Good evening. Welcome to the Park and Advisory Committee regular meeting of September 22nd, 7th, 2023. Please stand and salute the flag. Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you do a roll call of the members, please?
Here.
Here.
Second item is approval of the journal of the regular meeting of July 11th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve? Second. So ordered. Thank you. Financial update. Currently, right now, still in this account, there is a balance of $29,388.84. Going into this, we have taken some information of tree pits that we'll be discussing later on, some areas where we can spend some of these funds. The next item is Julie tomorrow is going to be providing ordinance that she and the policy writer of the city have put together in regards to EV stations and pricing. And
So the copy of the proposed ordinance for EV was sent to you prior to the meeting. We're going to discuss it here tonight. But basically what we did is we took the state definitions regarding electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging networks, charging stations, parking spots. So this is pretty much aligned with the state definition and Chapter 90 for electric vehicles. This ordinance would live in Title 10, which is traffic, and there would be its own subsection. And then, so we talked about installing EV charging stations within the city's right-of-way. The Department of Planning and Community Development would be in charge of that in terms of determination of the spots, but we'd be working with the DPW, also engineering to make sure that the locations are appropriate. Then we also have a schedule about, parking spaces, the fines associated with that, the fee that we would be charging for the suspension of electricity from the station to the vehicle. This is going to be a floating fee. I think right now we've talked a little bit about $2.50 an hour for 4 hours. Anything over that is an additional charge. They would get charged a $5 overage charge plus the rate of electricity. We want to keep the rate of electricity flexible because the electricity rate that we pay from National Grid and all the other suppliers goes up and down. But we would start it off at $2.50 and we'd adjust it monthly. Everything would be posted through the charge point machine, so there'd be a posting saying how much it would be to charge your car per hour and what the fines associated with it. We also added a fee schedule regarding if you're parking in an EV spot and you are not an EV vehicle, that would be $20. That's the regular parking fine. If you are an EV vehicle and you're parking in the spot and you're not charging the car, that's $20. So there's some different fines associated with that. We also have a schedule of where the EVs are currently, and then when we'd add new EV stations, that would get added to the schedule. But it just pretty much lays out what they are, what we plan to do, how we'll install them, and we also designate that the funding, the electric vehicle or the electricity charge would go right back to the maintenance and basically just the overall maintenance of the stations themselves in the city. So if we agree with this, I can present it to the Traffic Commission for a request for a public hearing the next Traffic Commission meeting. If the Traffic Commission approves of this, then it would go to a public hearing in November. So October would be the request, November would be the public hearing. If everything goes well, I would like to kind of start this January 1. I think that's reasonable. We get all the notices out. We do what we need to do for the machines, but I think that's more than enough time to give people notice of what we're trying to do. Happy to take any questions.
Do I have any questions from any members of the committee? Mr. Visquet?
I just want to make sure that, are all the electrical stations in repair? Are they all operating as,
Yep, as far as I know, as the last time I checked, everybody said, working order, nobody needed service. None of the stations needed service.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Julie. Julie, how many electric vehicles are there registered in Revere?
So I was able to pull some data, and we're looking at probably about 15, maybe close to 2,000.
Really?
Yeah. And that includes plug-in, so that's both gas and electric models and EVs. So, and I think the next couple of years, the incentive to buy an electric vehicle is going to still pretty attractive, so we're going to see an increase on that. We did put out a survey, and we only had 12 respondents, but most of the people that responded, they own Teslas, basically. And just in terms of location of where they'd like to see them in like near parks or near the public schools, because they always have access to those parking spots. So that's another thing that to be mindful of, that putting them in places where people will actually use them.
We put them in the school parking lots?
We have, we could put them where we think is feasible.
Because I believe every school has a parking lot,
Right.
parking area.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we'll put a couple in each.
we could, and then the other option that we could look into right now is National Grid is having another program where they're giving a lot of incentive for environmental justice communities, which Revere is one. And so the more criteria your area satisfies, the better the incentives. So this could be an option for the Central Ave parking lot, because we also looked at that at one time, but there needs some upgrades for the electrical infrastructure there, but this could be something too we could look at. I mean, it's open all the time. I mean, the central parking lot's open all the time. People can access it when they want. The only thing with the school parking lots is I know that the superintendent she does not want parking being taken away from her staff, especially in the case of the high school. And depending on what's going to happen with the high school, that might be a location where we don't put the EV chargers in. But I think we could definitely consider, maybe the West Revere School Complex that seems to get a lot of use on the weekends, has a lot of parking already. We could also consider maybe the Beachmont School as well. And I think we should definitely consider the Central Ave parking lot.
Because one thing I would think that we could do is, even through the superintendent, is do a survey of how many of their employees have electric vehicles, so we won't be taking spaces away from them. They'll be able to utilize them while they're in school.
Yes, so the survey that we sent out was just for Revere residents, but I think afterwards, reflecting on it, I think maybe we should have said, if you live or work in Revere, take our survey. But I think it would be great to know how many people that work for the city have electric vehicles. We know at least 8 people at City Hall that have them, so I'm sure the number at the schools is probably up there, I would think. But we can survey them, that's not an
But
issue.
even then, as far as the superintendent is concerned, we wouldn't be violating those people if somebody from the school is parking in those spaces. They wouldn't be subject to ticketing like the normal street would.
Correct, right. I mean, you would be parking there only for school business during school
And
time. so that-
she would have to know that, so it should make her feel a little more comfortable, about losing spaces for her staff.
Right, so there's 4 spots at the Hill School, and they're never full. Those 4 spots are not full. They seem to be vacant most of the time unless somebody's using the charging station. So her staff isn't parking there. So it's a consideration.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Agenzio?
So my only problem with the schools, the Hill School, you can park there, plug in, and then walk to Broadway. If I have an electric vehicle and I want to charge it, and I go to the Wayland School, for instance, I plug it in, and then, what am I going to do? How long does the charge take? A couple of hours? Or?
Well, I mean, the majority people are charging anywhere from 2 to 4 hours.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Wayland School would only be if you were going to be at the park for 2 hours,
oh,
or
okay.
if you were playing bocce. I mean, we have to really look at what is happening around you,
Right.
you know what I mean, to say, okay, this is worth it for me to
Okay.
kick around for 2 to 4 hours. I mean, if I had an electric vehicle, it would be dead in the driveway, because I would forget, and, and I'm never in one place long enough to charge, to be anywhere long enough for 4 hours to charge anything, so.
Okay.
Julie, if I may, would we consider reaching out to Walgreens and Rite Aid to put in their parking lot? And their lots aren't always full, especially in Rite Aid down in that far corner near the school. Nobody ever parks down there.
So we've been trying to understand the parking needs of that parking lot for quite some time, because we're looking at it for other interventions on Broadway as well. But that could be something that maybe we could partner with them to put the EVs in, also maybe offer some public parking during the day. I mean, I know people are parking there anyway, and there's really no enforcement of that, but maybe have a formalized plan. We'd also like to take some of that space and put some like beautification efforts and kind of soften that whole area, because I mean, it was, it's a big area, it's a lot of asphalt, so it would be great if we could do some beautification efforts to it as well. So, I mean, we could definitely speak with them on that. Though one good thing about the charging stations right now, they're pretty sleek, they're pretty slim. So, even if we were to say, okay, we want to put them like on the outer edges of the Rite Aid parking lot, it's not going to take up that much space in the city's right of way. Like if we have to share the right of way, it wouldn't take up that much space.
I know Walgreens rents some of their spaces to the CHA across the street, and which I don't know how legal that is, but, because I don't know if they got permits to really do that. But also, too, how about we reach out to the MBTA lots that we have in Revere between Beachmont and Wonderland?
So they have EVs chargers already in there, in the garage. But I believe the Beachmont one also, I think they're kind of off to the side. They have their own EV, but the garage has 4.
Because I know they redid that Beachmont's lot, put up new fencing and everything, so I'm glad to hear that they put some charging stations in. What about the open lot behind the Wonderland Ballroom?
That's the surface parking lot. There isn't anything there yet. But, if we enter into that type of agreement, I don't know what the MOU would look like for us to say, we want to put these here, but it's in your lot. Who's paying for the electricity? I mean, how does that all work? We'd have to really kind of tweak that out. We'd need the solicitor's help with that.
And I understand that, but it's just a potential location that some can go in.
We can look into it. We can see what other cities are doing.
Mr. Visca?
I just have one question about the ordinance. I see that we are proposing a $20 fine for a vehicle that may be over 4 hours that isn't charging, and then a $20 fine for a vehicle that would park there that doesn't have charging port at all. And I see that corresponding Group B fines on the separate amendment, but I'm having trouble understanding why it would only be a $5 fine for somebody who's there over 4 hours, but they're still charging. It seems to me to be a little counterintuitive. If it's a 4-hour limit, whether you're charging or not, I think it's a $20 fine. Otherwise, we should extend it to be 5 or 6 hours if that's how long a car takes. But I mean, and also, I mean, we have to rely on parking control officers to enforce this. And are they going to be looking to see if a car's there 4 hours, but it's still charging? And I just think that the $5 fine, I think I understand why we try to have a reduced fine for someone who's there over 4 hours but still charging, but I think it just runs a little inconsistent to the enforcement of $20 if you're there over 4 hours. Whether you're charging or not, it's a 4-hour spot, so I don't think it should be 5 for one and 20 for another. I think we have to modify this, that if you're over 4 hours, it's $20, and if you're parking there for any time that you're not actually utilizing the charging station, it should also be $20. I just think the $5 is kind of an off, it looks like a compromise that I think is not necessary and not easily be enforceable.
The $20 fine was just to kind of, not scare people, but if they're parking in that spot and they're not charging, or they don't have an EV vehicle and they're just parking in there because it's the closest spot or the most open spot, it's like a penalty for parking in there if it's
No,
not
I'm
in
not
there.
questioning either of the $20 ones. I'm
It's the
questioning the $5 one
Well, I
first.
mean, so how would we want to say, so if you're over the 4 hours, you're going to get charged $20 regardless of how much electricity you use?
I would say yes, unless we think for some reason there should be a 6-hour spot because it takes 6 hours to charge a car. But I think if it's a 4-hour spot, whether you're charging or not, it's still a 4-hour spot, assuming we want some turnover for other vehicles to be able to, I mean, not everyone may have to get a full charge, but at least they can, some people don't fill up their tank every time they go to the gas station either. They put $20 in. So I just think if it's a 4-hour limit, it's a 4-hour limit, whether you're charging or you're not charging. So I would look to amend this ordinance to say that it's a $20 fine over 4 hours, regardless if you're charging or not. And I think it's going to be easier to administer in that respect, and it also gives you the turnover that I think we'd look for as a city to have other people have an opportunity to park there.
I make a motion to take Mr. Viscay's suggestion and make that a $20 fine also.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so I will change this
Thank you.
prior to it going to the request for the public hearing with parking, so that it'll be $20 across the board.
Okay, just be clear, the motion is to make that amendment and present it to the Traffic and Parking Commission for passage?
Yes.
Okay, great, I'll second that and take a vote.
Do I have a vote?
Mr. Chairman, just one thing, just so everybody knows, hopefully the rules about the public hearing and ordinances. Like, even though we submit something for a public hearing, we can still make changes before the final, from the public hearing, if we hear something we don't like or we want to adjust, we can still adjust the ordinance before a final vote to meet any suggestions, complaints, or whatever may come up. So just so you know, we're not cast in stone just because we do something now. There's still another avenue to make changes if something comes up.
Yeah, we're just recommending this to the Traffic and Park Commission for their
Correct.
approval, so we're,
Now,
well, at least I understand that.
Are we going to have a public hearing, or is that what you want to do?
So I would imagine we would give this as a recommendation to the Traffic Commission in October and then move it to a public hearing in November.
Okay.
I don't believe so. We don't conduct our own public hearings. I don't.
No,
That would go through
I
the
don't
Traffic
think,
Commission.
yeah, it would have to go through the Traffic Commission because this
Okay.
it's Title 10,
Okay.
so that's
Yes.
where it's going to fit.
So bring it before the Traffic Commission in October, and we'll move it to a public hearing in November.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
So at this
Thank you.
moment, we're going to be seeking a vote from the committee to push this in front of the
I
Traffic
make a
Commission
motion
for
that
a
this
vote?
goes to the Traffic Commission at their October meeting.
Second.
Second. So ordered. One of the next points on the agenda is we did go around areas on Broadway and Shirley Ave where our meters are within the meter districts to count the number of tree pits to identify different areas of beautification around these corridors to rehab or, pretty up. We have about 101 tree pits from Broadway, starting closest to the Chelsea Bridge, all the way to the Vaz's Funeral Home, or Bertuccio's Funeral Home, 766 Broadway. It's 101 tree pits along the Broadway corridor. Shirley Ave has 17 tree pits within the metered areas. So it's a total of 118 tree pits we have throughout the city that we can use some of this funding that we discussed earlier in the meeting and spending, especially after we come out of the winter, or clean them up. And I know there has been some talks with this committee on what we would even do with these, whether we would be putting more trees, changing gates, covering them up, put synthetic in there, and willing to have a further discussion.
Yeah,
It's good.
just, I'm trying to find ways to use this money for beautification of those areas with the meters, and I thought tree pits are always kind of a one that people look at and scrutinize, and I guess since we have Mr. Argenzio here, I'm looking maybe for a recommendation. I know we have our either our landscapers or our in-house DPW that maintain them, but I was thinking that if there's something that's a little more durable and long-term, like synthetic or some kind of material to kind of have less day-to-day maintenance and more ability to be durable, I would be looking to see if we can maybe over the winter get an RFP together to see what type of cost it would be for an installation of a type of product and then a maintenance of that. So certainly not an expert on tree pits, but would love to try to use some of this beautification or parking meter money to dress up the area. So I'm looking more for suggestions on what may be the most practical and cost efficient. That's just not the dirt or mulch that seems to get kicked around and used as ashtrays and such.
Mr. Chairman, through you.
Genzio.
So we did have someone several years ago come down and demonstrate a couple for us, and we put them in just around the corner, and they work very well. There's a synthetic mixture. It almost looks like it goes in like concrete, but it doesn't. It's not obviously concrete. It's permeable for water, holds the weeds down. It works very well. It was a little bit expensive, a couple $100 per pit. So I will get some information on that and get some pricing and give that to the committee. But I think that's an excellent idea because they look terrible during the course of the year. Also, as I drove down Broadway today, I just looked, and there's like 5 pits, 3 are empty and 2 have dead trees in them. So we could replace those trees almost immediately if we wanted to spend some funds to do that. Currently, we're running about $800-900 a tree to purchase it, plant it, and water it for the first month. We might want to look into that, or check with the DCR to see if that program is still active. Maybe they'll do that for us. So I'll reach out to the DCR tomorrow to see if they'll replace these trees for us. And if not, maybe make a proposal. And during the winter and in the spring, we can spend some money to replace the dead ones.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just in addition to this, as far as Shirley Ave is concerned, I thank the Public Works guys that maintain the tree pits and stuff, and they did an excellent job down there, cleaning them out and putting in some mulch in every single one of them, and they really look good. But if this is another way to do it, that'll stop any further maintenance, I'm open to that. Grates, I'm definitely against. Don't want to see grates. So maybe this material that was proposed will do the job. But I know I have about 8 or 9 trees with new pits to be planted, to be done this fall, out of the meter area, a little further up to Thornton Street.
Okay.
So to try and beautify that area, but realize too, the lower end, we can't add any more tree pits because of all the underground power lines go underneath both sidewalks.
Is that Orr Square? Orr Square is
All the way
lower end?
down, from Orr Square all the way up to Walnut Ave.
Okay.
There's an underground electrical circuits that go underneath there. That's why we couldn't add any more. We did a few at the bump outs, during the Shirley Ave reconstruction, and where we weren't affecting the underground lines. But anything on the sidewalks would be very difficult and potentially detrimental.
Okay.
So we have to watch adding any more tree pits or trees down in that neck of the woods.
Then we did have a question. We have about 8 of them on Garfield Ave, but they're kind of set back towards the MBTA fence. Are those still are our tree pits, is that correct?
Those are ours. I don't know, I think DCR did those for us. And they're trying to get it so they didn't have to dig pits on the sidewalks.
Okay.
And it set them back along the fence. And it also actually hides the fence in some way. So they're actually looking good down there. You know, it's a little difficult to keep the area clean because that's where the wind blows all the trash. So, you know, DPW guys are down there, I'd say once a month, cleaning up that fence area. But they look good, and I think they're worth it, you know, that they're there.
That's one of the areas that maybe the synthetic would help try to keep it clean a longer
Yeah.
time. I mean, because you get so much wind between the train and the traffic, it's just, everything's gonna pile up against that fence.
Right.
Awesome, great points.
Mr. Chairman, quick question to Mr. Argenzio. Are those synthetic tree pits something that could potentially be done before the winter, or would we be looking at something that we'd wait until the spring?
I believe that's a spring project. By the time we got a bid out, an RFP, and then once the temperature drops below a certain, you can't put it in.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
All right.
From my perspective, I think the timing of that's pretty well, as we'll keep adding to this account, and hopefully by the time
Right.
that time of year comes around, we'll be able to tackle more than half of them. Awesome.
Can I make a motion to ask the superintendent of public works to put together a RFP, or if it's under 50,000, it may just need 3 quotes on the synthetic material for up to, I'll say 120 tree pits, assuming we may have missed some, and maybe report back at the next meeting if some pricing, so we can earmark some money for that.
So motion
Okay.
on the table, do I have a second?
Second.
So ordered. At this time, we have a member for the public here. Would you like to speak on anything we spoke about today? All righty. And as we are aware, this is our last scheduled meeting of this year. Is it the wish of the committee to add another meeting before we go into our winter recess?
No request here. I would just ask that we try to bring this committee to its full complement with 2 members of the community for the next meeting. I know hopefully Council Novoselsky can find one from the Shirley Ave area, and then maybe Mr. Argenzio knows like some candidates from Broadway, as someone who pretty much knows everybody in the city here.
Okay, I will attempt to get some interest.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. We've kind of been missing 2 throughout this process, and then we lost 1 more. We'll try to get a full complement of our 9 members, I agree.
No one likes the parking department, Mr. Argenzio, so, maybe DPW has better luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to recess?
Motion?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.